They say Paris is always a good idea. But what they don't tell you is how to survive the chaos to find the magic. From the last minute scramble to the secret €2 views that the tourists miss, we watched a freezing rainy morning transform into a sunset of literal liquid gold and a quiet drive turn into an epic Game of Thrones adventure. I'm taking you through a 5 days of French magic, the 10 p.m. finale at Disneyland that I promise you haven't seen anywhere else. Stick around, Paris has a few surprises left. Day 1 in Paris, and we're already living the dream. We're staying at the Novotel Suites Paris Expo Port to Versailles, which is honestly a lifesaver because the metro station is literally right outside the front door. No navigating confusing side streets, just hop on and go. We took the line straight towards the 7th arrondissement. And the moment we stepped out, there she was, the Eiffel Tower. It was raining, which sounds like a downer, but honestly, it made everything look so cinematic. It was a total pinch me moment, like stepping right into a movie scene I'd watched 1,000 times on screen. We decided to wing it and buy tickets offline at the base. The queue looked intimidating, but it actually moved way faster than we expected. We grabbed lift tickets and began the climb. First stop, the first floor. Stepping out was a bit of a shock. It was freezing and the wind was really whipping through the ironwork, making the weather feel almost unbearable. But then I looked out. Breathtaking doesn't even cover it. From here, you're high enough to see the city, but low enough to feel connected to it. We could clearly see the Seine river snaking through the city, the Trocadéro gardens, and the Champ de Mars. Moving up to the second floor, the views got even wider. But more importantly, we found a cafe. In that freezing wind, a hot cup of coffee and a hot cup of soup felt like a warm hug. It's the perfect spot to defrost and take in the intricate iron latticework of the tower itself. Then it was time for the grand finale, the summit. The top is actually split into 2 levels. The indoor level, which was actually heated and has panoramic windows where we pointed out the Louvre Museum, the Arc de Triomphe, and the futuristic Fondation Louis Vuitton. While we were exploring the upper decks, I looked down and caught something so cool, the Paris Metro Line 6 sneaking its way across the Bir Hakeim Bridge. From this height, the trains look like tiny toys navigating through the buildings. It's a perspective of Parisian life you just cannot get from the ground. And then, the weather did something magical. The rain that had been following us all morning finally broke, making way for one of the most beautiful sunsets I've ever seen. One minute it was moody and grey, and the next, the entire city was bathed in this deep liquid gold. Watching the sun dip from the horizon from the very top of tower, it was surreal. The way the light hits the Seine and the white stone of the city is something I'll never forget. If you're visiting, pray for a little rain, because the sunset that follows it is absolutely on another level. But the open air level, that's where the magic is. Even with the chill, standing at the very top of Paris at night is a different level of beautiful. We even got lucky enough to spot a blood moon, a deep glowing red orb hanging right next to the tower. It looked spectacular. We ended up spending the entire day here, watching the city transition from a grainy gray to a glowing gold. The tower is majestic at night, but whatever you do, don't leave before the hour marks. Every hour, for 5 minutes, the tower sparkles with thousands of flickering lights. It's a kind of sight that stays with you forever. Paris, you've definitely won me over on day one. Starting day 2 with a hack every traveler needs to know. If you want the most postcard perfect view of the Eiffel Tower without breaking a sweat, hop on Metro Line 6. The train crosses the Bir Hakeim Bridge. The Iron Lady just appears out of nowhere against the Parisian skyline. It's easily the best €2 view in the city. The train took us straight to Arc de Triomphe. This massive monument was commissioned by Napoleon and stands as a tribute to those who fought for France. It sits right at the center of Place Charles de Gaulle, a legendary 12-lane roundabout where 12 different avenues converge. Pro tip: do not try to dodge traffic to get to the center. It looks like a real-life game of Frogger and it's incredibly confusing. Look for the underground pedestrian tunnels. They are the only safe way to actually reach the Arc. We took some amazing pictures here. The scale of the Arc against the Parisian sky is just incredible for the gram. A quick 15-minute metro ride later, we arrived at the Louvre. This place is a beast. It's the world's largest art museum and was originally a royal palace. Even with the crowds being a bit overwhelming, we braved a 30-minute queue to get inside. The galleries are filled with thousands of years of history, from Egyptian antiquities to Renaissance masterpieces. But let's be real, everyone is here for one person, the showstopper, which is undoubtedly Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa. She's famous for her enigmatic smile, which seems to change depending on where you stand. Because she's so valuable, she's kept behind advanced specialized bulletproof glass in a climate-controlled enclosure. It's wild to see the sheer number of tourists packed into one room just to get a glimpse of her. By evening, we started our walk towards Notre-Dame Cathedral. Now, here's a little local guide warning for you. Google Maps told us that it was open until 7:30 p.m., but we got there at 6 p.m. only to find the gates closed. Even in a city like Paris, digital information can be a bit hit or miss. So always try to double check the official monument site. To make up for the detour, we headed back to the river for Seine River cruise. If you visit Paris, you have to do this at night. The boat glides past the Musée d'Orsay, the Louvre, and under the ornate bridges while a recorded guide plays over the speakers, explaining the history and significance of the landmarks in both English and French. It's the ultimate way to see the city illuminated. You get a completely different perspective of the architecture from the water, and catching the Eiffel Tower sparkle from the middle of the river is a moment you won't forget. We ended the night at Jardins du Trocadéro. The vibe here is electric. Street performers singing, people dancing, and a high energy atmosphere. But the real reason everyone is here is for the legendary, unobstructed view of the Eiffel Tower. Standing here, watching the lights glow across the fountains, was the perfect way to say goodnight to Paris. Day 3, and we are heading to the happiest place in Europe, Disneyland Paris. The journey there was an experience in itself. We took the RER, which felt a bit more plush than the local lines. I have to say, Paris gets an A+ for its metro stations. The seating is so artistic and aesthetic. And for my fellow coffee lovers, there are vending machines everywhere. You can grab a surprisingly decent and affordable cup of coffee right on the platform to fuel up for the day. The stations are clearly marked for Disneyland, so the trip was smooth and stress-free. Stepping into Disneyland Paris felt like walking straight into a dream. The park is divided into 5 themed lands, and it is huge. Main Street, USA welcomes you with that classic 1900s charm. From there, you can head to Frontierland for the legendary Big Thunder Mountain, a wild mine train ride that's easily one of the best versions in the world. For the thrill seekers, Discoveryland is a must for Star Wars Hyperspace Mountain, which is fast, dark, and intense. Straight to the iconic pink Sleeping Beauty Castle. If you like something spookier, Phantom Manor is right nearby. If you're with family, or just want those classic vibes, Fantasyland is where you'll find Peter Pan's flight, and it's a small world. Because the park is so massive and the crowds are always there, it's virtually impossible to do every single ride in one day. Pro tip: use the mobile app to track wait times in real time. Over the Adventureland, you've got the classic Pirates of Caribbean and the looping Indiana Jones and the Temple of Peril. As the clock struck 10 p.m., something shifted in the air. The chatter of the thousands of people around us faded into a collective silence. This wasn't just a fireworks show, it was the start of Disney Tales of Magic. And for the next 30 minutes, we were completely transported. What makes this show so emotional is how it wraps itself around you. The projections don't just stay on the castle, they bleed out onto the buildings of Main Street, turning the entire park into a living, breathing canvas of our favorite childhood memories. From the golden halls of Beauty and the Beast to the vibrant Casita of Encanto, the colors were so vivid they felt like they were glowing from within. And then the sky itself came alive. Hundreds of synchronized drones took flight, weaving together to form 3D shapes that looked like constellations brought to life. Watching the drones dance alongside the pyrotechnics, all synced to a sweeping orchestral soundtrack of Lion King, Cinderella, and Lilo and Stitch, was honestly overwhelming. It's one of those rare moments where you feel like a kid again, completely wide eyed and full of wonder, standing there in the cool Paris night, watching the laser pierce through the smoke and the fireworks light up the faces of everyone around us. It was spectacular. It's the kind of experience that stays with you long after the lights come back on. It made this entire journey feel complete, a true core memory in the making. I've uploaded the full uncut 30-minute performance. You can find the link in the description or by clicking the I button on your screen. Trust me, you'll want to see the drone sequences for yourself. Day 4 started with a massive reality check. We decided to head out of the city to the coast, but finding a car in Paris at the last minute is no joke. Everything was fully booked. After some digging, we managed to snag a rental from Enterprise via VIPcars.com. I'll be honest, I was a little nervous using a new site for a last minute booking, but the process was surprisingly seamless. We originally booked a Volvo XC60, but that was not available, so we chose a brand new Lexus NX 450h Plus. It was in pristine condition. All they needed were copies of my passport, driver's license, and a quick credit card authorization. We had a 207-kilometer journey ahead of us, which takes about 2 hours and 45 minutes. The drive through the French countryside was incredibly smooth, but we were in a race against the clock. The sun was dipping lower and lower, so we didn't take a single break. We completed the entire stretch in one go to make sure we caught the light. We pulled into Etretat at exactly 6:15 p.m., just as the sky began to catch fire. Etretat is world famous for its dramatic white chalk cliffs and 3 natural arcs that carve into the Atlantic Ocean. It's like nature's own cathedral. I decided to climb the hill for a better vantage point. It's a relatively short trek, but once you reach the top, the views are absolutely breathtaking. standing on the edge of the cliff with the wind in your face, watching the sun sink into the horizon behind those jagged rock formations. It's something else entirely. If you ever visit Etretat, do not miss the sunset. It is easily one of the most beautiful sights in all of France. After the sun disappeared, we got back on the road and drove deeper into Normandy towards Pontorson. We arrived quite late into the night and checked into the Best Western Hotel, Montgomery. It's a charming historic spot that felt like the perfect place to rest our heads after such an intense day of exploring. We woke up in Pontorson after a late night arrival. We stayed at the Best Western Hotel Montgomery, which was decent and had a really cool historic vibe. It was actually the former home of the Earls of Montgomery, so you really feel the history in the architecture. Before heading to the main event, we took some time to explore Pontorson itself. It's a quite authentic Normandy town with charming stone houses and a beautiful 11th century church. It's the perfect peaceful gateway before the crowds of the Mont. And of course, we had to try the famous local crepes. They were light, buttery, and exactly what we needed to start the day. From Pontorson, it's a quick 7-kilometer drive, about 10 minutes to the Mont Saint-Michel parking area. You can't drive all the way to the island, so we hopped on the shuttle. It's a free, eco-friendly shuttle that runs every few minutes. The shuttle ride is an experience of its own. As you cross the causeway, the Mont slowly rises out of the bay. Seeing that silhouette get bigger and bigger against the horizon, the views were absolutely amazing. Stepping inside Mont Saint-Michel is like stepping back in time. It's a medieval village built onto a tidal island, and honestly, I felt like I was walking onto a Game of Thrones set. The narrow, winding streets are packed with shops, cafes, and historic restaurants. It was bustling with tourists, but that had only added to the energy of the place. We spent our time exploring the ramparts and taking in those breathtaking views of the Atlantic Bay. There is a massive abbey at the very top, but since it was our last day in France and we had a long drive ahead, we decided to skip the interior tour this time and just soak in the atmosphere of the village itself. Then it was time for the final leg of our French road trip. We started the 357-kilometer journey back to Paris. It's about a 4-hour drive via the A84 and A13 highways. The roads were smooth, taking us through the heart of Normandy countryside as we bid farewell to the coast. It gave us plenty of time to reflect on what an incredible week it's been. That's a wrap on our Paris and Normandy adventure, but the journey doesn't end here. Tomorrow morning, we're catching a flight from Paris to a completely different world, Tromsø, Norway. Get ready for sub-zero temperatures, snowy landscape, and hopefully a glimpse of the legendary Northern Lights. You won't want to miss the next video. So if you enjoyed this journey through France, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you're first one to see the Arctic magic. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in Norway.